All right. Good evening, good evening, good evening, team. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining tonight. For those of you who don't know me, my name is EJ Jordan. I serve as the Senior Director of Transformative Communities at Dream.org, and I am our campaign lead for our Stop Toxic Tech Green the Grid campaign. For those of you who may be unfamiliar of Dream.org, like who are we? Why are we hosting this training? We are a national 501(c)(3) organization working at the intersection of climate equity, criminal justice reform, and tech innovation through our Green for All, Justice for All, and Tech for All programs. At the heart of our work is we have like one simple belief, and that is the people closest to the challenges that our communities are being faced with are often the best positioned to help shape the solutions. And so, really excited to be with you all as your national partner. And I say your national partner because we work with everyone in North Carolina. Much of our work is focused on supporting local organizations, residents, coalition partners as they navigate questions related to data center expansion. That includes anything from energy demands, water resources, public health, and how to, tell your story as you're talking to legislation staff. And so we are honored to be a part of the North Carolina Environmental Grassroots Coalition. And so we do attend those calls every other week. And we are very grateful for the opportunity to be a part of this important work and support each of you. I am a former resident of Charlotte, North Carolina, just so you know. So, North Carolina is near and dear to my heart. And so, I'm very excited to be doing the work with you all. To the Lobby Day planning team and subcommittee, thank you for all the work and leadership that you all have been doing. I've been sitting on that team, and it's been a pure joy to work with each of you all. And I look forward to Lobby Day next week, next Wednesday. As Dream.org, is super excited to host this training tonight and help prepare each of you to engage confidently and effectively with your policymakers. Before we get started, I do want to note that Hope Taylor, if she's not on the phone yet, she will be. And she will be joining this evening. Hope will be available during the Q&A section to answer any logistical questions about Lobby Day. So if you want to know, like, where are we meeting, things of that nature, if you could just hold those logistical questions till the Q&A portion, and we'll make sure that Hope answers that. She did raise her hand to be assistance with that. Moving on to our objectives for this evening, we want to make sure you learn how to effectively communicate community concerns with your policy priorities related to data centers coming into your communities. We want you to gain the knowledge and the confidence needed to advocate for stronger community protection, transparency, accountability during your legislation meetings. We want to make sure that you understand how to navigate the legislative process and strategically engage with decision makers. I think that that's really important that we focus on what is the strategy behind working with your decision makers and to advance your community centered policy solutions. We want to learn how to use that your personal story, your local experiences as constituents of their communities, of your communities. And how to ask and build for the support needed from your legislative staff. And then lastly, we want you to make sure that you feel prepared for Lobby Day. This is huge. You got 100 people have signed up for Lobby Day. So I'm super excited to be on the ground with you all next week. So just making sure that you feel prepared and have a clear understanding of your role, key messaging, and advocacy goals. So now we're going to take a quick moment to hear from each of you. What we want to do is do what we call a Menti moment. And what we want to do before we dive in this training is just hear your feedback on this particular question. And it says, when you think about meeting with your elected official, what comes to mind. All you have to do, a pop-up should have come up for you where you select, to join the Menti meter. It's also in the chat. Or if you have your phone next to you, you can scan with the QR code to input your response. So when you think about meeting with elected officials, what comes to mind? And Tori will share some of those responses as they pop up. What are we asking them to do? Building relationships. Those are great responses. Catering the message to their political views and telling a story rather than spit out facts. That's really good. Making the best first impression, staying focused. Yeah, speaking precisely and quickly. That's a really good one as well. Yep, excited because they immediately wanted to meet with you. That's amazing. Yes, making sure that you phrase your messaging the right way. Not knowing what to say. And you know what? That's understandable as well. And so I hope that this training is helpful. Optics, something difficult to get a hold of. Yeah, use time wisely. Awesome. Yes, making sure that they are reminded that they represent us and our needs. Beautiful. Excellent responses. Excellent responses. I appreciate all of these. Um, and so I thank you for participating and just thank you for sharing your thoughts. It's always really helpful to understand at the start of a training, to understand what people are bringing into the space. And hopefully tonight's training will help answer some of the questions you may have, build some of that confidence, and prepare for a successful lobby day experience. So, without further ado, I'm going to step aside. I'd like to introduce our trainer for the evening, my amazing colleague, Candia Milton. Those who sit on the Lobby Day subcommittee have been in conversations with him. He's been joining those calls with me. And so, really excited. Candia serves as the Director of Government Affairs here at dream.org, and he brings extensive experience in legislative advocacy, coalition building, grassroots engagement. Over the past 5 years, while being here at Dream, Candia has led and supported roughly 30 lobby days. Including a dozen of those were on Capitol Hill. So many of the advocacy strategies and best practices you'll learn here tonight come directly from experience with working with communities, with advocates and policymakers across the country. So we're super fortunate to have Candia lead tonight's training, and I'm excited for each of you to learn from him. So please help me welcome Candia Milton.
All righty. Thank you, EJ, for the kind introduction, I want to also first start off by also thanking you all for allowing uh, us into this space, to be a partner, to be an ally in your efforts. Um, I as EJ mentioned, I have done a number of lobby days, both in the state, at state capitals, also in here in Washington D.C. Um, and what that really means is you had a lot of opportunities to learn, to mess things up, learn from my mistakes, and build a curriculum that to help you avoid the challenges that I faced when I first started lobbying and advocating, quite frankly. I like to use the word advocating versus lobbying because of the connotations that come go along with it. Um, just real quick, what this training will entail, we will sort of touch on the talking points. I won't get deep into the talking points because you all have them, and so I want to make certain. I see here that you can't see the presenter. I don't know. So I'm somewhere I can see myself. But at any rate, I want to touch on the talking points. I won't get into the weeds with regards to the talking points, but we will talk about the talking points. Um, we will also get into the legislative advocacy and preparing for meetings. We want to make certain that each meeting has its own sort of preparation. And so we want to make certain that we are preparing for each meeting. We're going to talk about conducting ourselves within the meeting and then how we follow up. And then we will have Q&A after that. Now, let me just say this training can be, Nick, kind of didactic. But I do want to leave some space for you to ask questions. And so there'll be times when I will pause to hear from you all and get questions and feedback from you. So I do want to leave some space for you all to ask questions as well. So that being said, can we go to the next slide? Um, so as I mentioned, we're going to go through the talking points, data centers and the community impact, right? What is the community impact? And let me just say, as we talk about the talking points, one of the things we want to do, and you probably hear this time and time again in politics, and that is stay on message. We want to be consistent throughout, no matter which meeting uh, that 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 is being conducted. We want to make certain that we're all delivering the same message from one office to the next. And so as you receive your one pagers and as you hear from us today, know that we want to be singing from the same hymnal. Uh, and what's happening in North Carolina is happening throughout many of the states, right? There's this rapid expansion in data centers that really are a threat to our communities and places strains on the grids. It impacts our public health and safety for that matter, and has some cost to taxpayers, often cost to ratepayers, and while providing limited benefits to the communities that they seek to be in. And so we want to make certain we're staying on that message around the hidden cost of data centers. Let's go to the next slide. And then here are the bullet pointed concerns, right? We and we want to really add color to each one of these, right? So we're not just saying public health, but what is the impact of more carbon emissions in our communities, a public health nexus to that. When it comes to water and the usage of water, what does that look like? We want to paint the picture for each one of these key concerns so that the legislator has a visual of what that looks like. Agricultural land use, right? And the threat to agriculture and the environmental justice, and how our communities are constantly, whether we're in rural communities or in urban communities, right? So we want to make certain that we're speaking uh, to the, if you would, self-interest of that legislator, making certain that we're keeping that message very local and how it's impacting each, whether it be in rural or urban areas. And so, again, we want to stay on message. Data center developments should include strong community protections and uh, ensure that corporations, not residents, are bearing the true cost with respect to data centers in our community. So again, it's important that we stay on message relative to the talking points. And let me just say, much of this I extracted from the draft that was produced last week, and I know that it has since evolved. So if you all want to If it needs some refining, let's make certain that we refine that message. Um, but here's, some of the impacts spelled out in deeper form, right? So air quality, noise levels, water quality, making certain that we're touching on all of these points. Let's go to the next slide. And so, at the end of the day, the question is, what is the ask? So as we lay out our case, which is our talking points, then we want to make certain there is that ask. And I see in the new document there's a specific ask around moratoriums and setting. So essentially what we've done is we set up we made the case for a moratorium by laying out our talking points in addition to, and we'll get to this later, in addition to the very local stories that'll be brought to each of the meetings, the very specific stories that you all will bring to the conversation. And so that is critical. And we'll touch upon how critical that is as we get into one, the preparing of the meeting, as well as the meeting itself and what that looks like. Um, and so what we want to do is what we want the legislators to do is one, a moratorium, right? But also ultimately support policies that require environmental safeguards, corporate accountability, and meaningful community engagement to the extent that they're approving data centers down the road. Um, we want to make certain that that's happening prior to any approvals. And let me take a step back. Um, I know that there's the coalition is representative of a diverse group of people. And it kind of reminds me of the criminal justice reform, or should I say the criminal justice movement, where you have people who come to it with diverse perspectives. You have those in the movement who are abolitionists, and you have those in the movement who are reformers. And amongst the reformers, you have those who want reforms right away and they want major reforms, and then within it, you have incrementalists. But they all come to the table in coalition, recognizing that this is a journey. And for the abolitionists who sit at the table, they recognize that with one stroke of a pen, they're not going to get 100% of what they want in that moment. And so they come with some level of, okay, let's swing a big bat and get what we can get in this moment. And I kind of see this, as we take a look at data centers, I see it tantamount to being the same. Some folks come to the table um, from the perspective of we want no data centers whatsoever. Whereas some say, you know what, we recognize that data centers um, may be a reality given technology um, and the need to support technology, but we can't have them flood our community in a way that's irresponsible without any accountability and no benefit to our community and causing damage within our community. And so we have this spectrum, and we want to respect folks who sit along the entire spectrum as we go into these meetings. And so we want to make, again, the point I want to make and emphasize is if we are going in and saying moratorium, we all need to be saying moratorium for whatever the purpose is that we have determined to be the purpose. But I see Laura has her hand up, and so I'll pause right now and allow Laura to go ahead and voice her question. And if others have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and we can get to them as well.
So my question was kind of along as we're preparing for lobby day, you know, you said there was a spectrum of people. When we go to the meetings, is it better to sort of have like everyone in there all at once that may be part of the same community, or is it more effective perhaps if the representatives keep having meeting after meeting after meeting, fill their docket, so to speak?
That's an interesting perspective. If I heard you correctly, it is, do you if you have, let me just put a number to it. If you have 10 people and you want to meet and they all come from a single
Mhm.
district, do we want all 10 in that meeting or do we want to have multiple meetings? Is that what I understand? Am I
Yeah,
correct?
might all kind of present a little bit differently optic wise. Some of us might kind of be more reformers, some of us might be kind of more like abolitionists, and it might kind of give a different read depending on who the representative is. I know for me it's all Republican, all out in my in my area, so they might have a different read on some people in the group than than others.
Right. So I think that whether you are all reformers or all, so let me start with that because I think that's an important question, right? Whether you're all informers, reformers, or all abolitionists, the ask should be the same.
Okay.
And so whether or not it should be 10 of you in the meeting versus 5 and 5 is really, see, I don't know what the political climate is in North Carolina. I think, I would suggest that if the representative can only be available for one meeting, that the 10 of you show up so that there's power in numbers,
Okay. Thank
right?
you.
But the ask should not change from one meeting to the next because it can be confusing, right?
Mhm.
Uh, let's go in order, Belinda and then Hope.
I just want to elaborate on that question. I was just in Raleigh last week for Lobby Day with Dogwood Alliance. And what we did, we broke up in groups. And each one of us had even our own rep and maybe two or three more reps that's close by us.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then, the others went to their rep and reps that was close by them. But I don't think that they're going to just, see two or three groups. What we did, we sat outside. It's a nice table out there, and it was four of us in my group. And they just came out to the table and sat down with us, I guess, about 15 minutes and took our concerns. And then we left there and went to the next representative. And that's how we did it. And it was very productive.
Right. Yeah. So if there's multiple representatives, I agree. Split those up. Um, and and but if there is, 7 from one district, and the only opportunity you have is one meeting, then certainly do that. Um, do that one meeting. Hope, I see your hand raised high.
I just wanted to reinforce that message that it really, especially because the legislators are going to be working on the budget and they're really going to be crunched for time, that we not try and presume on more than one visit per legislator.
Okay.
So it probably is better. But we have one county that has 11 folks, and I think it's going to have a powerful message, but I don't even think that group should split and try and get more than one visit with a legislator.
Right. Okay. Right. So I'm in agreement there. Well, I think we both said the same thing. Is that if you get one, take that meeting and run with it and make it a powerful meeting. Let's go to the next slide. So, what is lobbying? So often we can go to the next slide. So often we go into these meetings and we leave the legislator with, and they're better educated on the meeting. I mean, on the issue, right? And we give them good information and we walk out and feel like we did a great job. And I would suggest you only did half the job if you just informed the legislator. We want to make an impact on the process. We want to move the needle. And that's the purposes of lobbying. Yes, we want to educate them, we want to set the issue up, but at the end of the day, we want to move them from a position of, let's say they are considering, from a position of considering to a position of supporting and being on our side. And so we want to take them and place them in a position where they can say yes, and they will say yes. So we want to have an impact on that process. Yes, we want to communicate our priorities. We want to give them all the data, but at the end of the day, we want to move the needle. Let's go to the next slide. And I can tell you, it is often a question of we really built the power? Now, I will say I'm pretty impressed with the numbers who are here on the training, as well as the number of people who are who have confirmed and registered for the lobby day. And I and when you're in these meetings, utilize those numbers. I'm here with over 150, whatever the number is, let's just say 150 uh, people from throughout the state who are really passionate about this issue, right? So name that number, 150 from throughout the state, both rural and urban areas, right? You want to, again, always paint a picture. Um, and when you have those numbers, 10 in a room, that is certainly a powerful visual. And that's why they should listen to you. They should listen to you because you're a constituent and you've also come with numbers. They say in organizing, there's um, two aspects of powerful organizing is power rather, organize money and organize people. And when you bring 150 people to the Capitol, you're well organized when it comes to people, and that is where your power is derived in the number of people you bring to the Capitol. Next slide. Now let's pause here because this is I always have a lot of fun with this section here, and I always say accept the five following advocacy truths. Uh, and they're truths that I subscribe to, in part because they're tried and true, and then some of it speaks to my cynicism with respect to government. So pardon me if I happen to if that happens to shine through in these five truths. But I want your feedback on the two that have a star next to it, starting with government is in the business of picking winners and losers. I want if folks are interested, please verbalize your response to that to that statement. Government is in the business of picking winners and losers. Anybody want to volunteer a reaction to that? Victoria says that's what policy is all about. Say more.
Well, that's kind of just what they teach us in public policy classes. Ultimately, someone is going to lose, but I think our goal as policymakers is to try to get as many winners and support the people.
Hmm. Right. Any other? Any other reactions? Now, I've been known to call some folks out. Um, I see Bobby's head just pop up. Go ahead, Bobby.
So I also think politics is about the money.
Hmm.
And so it's kind of like winners could be and I hate to say that, that's kind of cynical, but in local government, it's who has the money.
Right. Yeah, and certainly there is this, if I make contributions to campaigns and things of that nature, I have access, and then they vote for my stuff, right? And so now I'm on the winning side. Mark, I'll take one more from Mark there.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends. In North Carolina, because of the supermajority the Republicans have in our legislature, or close to, therefore, in the House, that's how it works. I think when things are a bit more balanced, as they kind of should be, I think you get more of a people try and get a win-win type of thing, but that's not what's going to happen in North Carolina.
Hmm. Yeah, and the cynical part of me sort of subscribes to it, this number two, in so much as so often. Yeah, well, let's talk about budgets, right? There's a limited pot of money, no matter how big that pot of money is. And the question is, how are they going to spend that money? in a given fiscal year. And so are they going to spend it on the issues that are important to us, or are they going to spend it on the issues that are important to them? And so have we advocated in a way that gets them to pick our side or the other side? Um, and then I think the other star that I have here on number 5 is, I think, was touched on a little bit earlier, and that's relationships, are paramount, right? Um, get to know your politicians. I don't know that anybody would disagree with that. If some Hope, I see your hand is up. You're on me.
Yeah, I think that trust is everything. And I have certainly seen politicians who started off with a very different perspective. If you can find even a little bit of common ground, and make them feel more comfortable with what you're asking, I've seen them actually become leaders in a direction that they didn't even foresee for themselves.
Right, right. And my colleague Tori says, get to know them even if you don't like them. I think it's easy to say no to a piece of paper, but I think it's hard to say no to Laura. It's hard to say no to Gregory. It's hard to say no to Carol. Get to know them. Um, and as Hope was stating, once they get to know you, then everything else is it can be a lot easier. Uh, right? So make certain you're getting to know them, even if you don't like them. Let's go to the next slide. So this is the basic sort of I'm just a bill sort of presentation. And if you were taking our sort of full class, if you would, um, we would really dig into this in a deep way. And if you were starting a bill from scratch, we would go through this. The only reason it's here is just in case you need to circle back up and understand who the leads are, right? You want to know who the leads are on the bill, that you're sponsoring, because you want to make certain that you're holding them accountable to moving it. It's critical to know who the leads are, but you also want to make the issue as bipartisan an issue as you can, particularly in an area like North Carolina, which is generally considered a purple state. Um, and so you want to understand the legislation in a way that you can talk to um, Republicans in a way that Republicans talk about the issue, and Democrats in the way that Democrats see the issue. Um, and so you want to find common ground in the rooms that you're in. And so, but if you know who the best, who the lead sponsor is, um, and have a relationship with the lead sponsor, then that's critical. Let's go to the next slide. And Tori, I think we can kind of buzz through this. So I'll touch on a few things if there's some things to highlight. Um, but I don't, people are pretty familiar with the sort of I'm just a bill process, right? Trying to move a bill out of committee, right? So a bill starts in the committee of jurisdiction. Once they have a hearing on that bill and mark that bill up, that bill then moves from the committee of jurisdiction to the floor for a vote. Um, yep, yep. So Tori said we'll share these particular slides. Move to the floor for a vote. Now, at any point, the bill can be amended. And so you always want to keep your eye on the bill, even if it's scheduled to go, to a committee for markup, which is the point at which it's eligible for amendments and vote out of committee, or if it's on the floor, there can be opportunities for markup there. So you want to make certain that any bill that you're supporting, you're following it. And a lot of times you can go to your state website and uh, register and subscribe to receive updates on the movement of your bills. Okay. And so understand also what the roadblocks are. And that's really what we're getting at. So let's go to the um, next one, right? So you have an uncommitted sponsor, and you can see that 80% that can be damaging from, at 80%. The bill just sort of sits there. It serves as a marker bill or vanity bill, something where the legislator can say, yeah, I introduced this bill, and they can go back to their constituents and say they introduced it, but really never do anything. But it sounds great that they introduced it. Um, the sponsor is from the wrong party. Um, right. So let's say you have, a bill that's introduced by Democrats, um, and it only has Democrat support, co-sponsorship, right? So that's the next bullet. Also, it only has Democrat, then it's a Democratic bill, right? So you want to make certain that that bill, when it's introduced in a bipartisan way, and that you have, for every Democrat, you have a Republican to go along with it, right? And so that it's not swinging heavily one way. Um, and so let's go to the next slide. Other is that the speaker, no support, lack support from the speaker or leader, or chair, right? In the committee of jurisdiction. Sometimes I stutter, so I put, I guess, two L's there. Lack support from chair within the committee. So, these things, it'll never get out of committee if it lacks support from the chair. Um, and so, and you don't have support from the party within, that the majority party within the committee of jurisdiction. I mean, they tend to vote along party lines, particularly in state legislatures. Next slide. Lack support from the governor, right? So, if you're in a state where you have let's say a Republican governor, and one side of the legislature is Republican, the other side is Democrat, it generally will not move if the governor has expressed a lack of support for the bill, because the governor can practically kill the bill by pulling the party in, in line, right? Let's go to the next slide. And so, to the extent that you are seeking to move a bill, you want to make certain that all of these things are in line, right? All of the things. So the opposite of that, which puts the bill at risk, you want to make certain that these things are now all in line. And so, do you have a committed and determined sponsor from the majority party? Um, and let me just say, not just sponsor, but lead. Do you have bipartisan co-sponsorship throughout? Do you have a strategy for the Speaker of the House and the leader of the Senate, right? So you want to make certain that you're very strategic up front, um, before you try to move a bill. Um, and so these slides will be available to you. But I want to take a moment right now and pause to see if there's any questions or comments based on what we've said so far.
Oh, hey y'all, I'm Carol
Hi,
with
Carol.
Action. It's just that was a lot.
Right.
That was just a lot. I don't even know if I have a question that makes sense. That was just a lot.
Well, you know what? Let me say this too. I should have said this from the onset. So often we want to make certain that we have the perfect phraseology, if you would, for a question. Um, you don't need to be perfect in setting up the question. If it's on your mind, put it out there. Um, and so it doesn't have to be a perfect question. Uh, all right. If there's no other comments or questions, we go to the next.
Hope has her hand up.
I just wanted to say that this is all very sophisticated, and I have to say that our coalition working on data centers did not get in early in the legislative process, just like the data centers have been coming at us in a rush. Several of these proposals came up before we ever had any contacts with legislators. So one bill, 730, that several people have mentioned, has some okay protections for data centers, but has terrible energy provisions, and our speaker at our press conference is one of the people who worked hardest to try and separate those. And there's another bill, which is about moratorium. And we will have a summary of the various bills for people. But the planning group felt that working towards educating our legislators about the impacts to motivate a moratorium was probably the most productive use of our time.
Okay. I figured as much. The reason why I was gonna take much of this out, um, but and the reason why I decided to include it in is if you want to identify where how to influence the pushback, is to understand who controls what, right? And so who are the co-sponsors, who are the leads, and what how do you influence the process? And so, no, I do agree that the um, that the specifics around setting up a meeting and how to organize a meeting is more important than this aspect. So we can go to the next. In fact, Tori, we don't need to do this particular one right now. The letters have already been sent out requesting a meeting. Certainly, follow-up calls to the offices to the extent that they're necessary. It's important to make those. Um, but I will state, and I think that this was talked about earlier, if you don't have meetings set up, these are public officials. And so the traditional walking the halls can be critical and important. Some of my best meetings have happened when we have walked the halls, when we've knocked on doors and popped in without appointments. And so I think it's important for us to, as we're there, to knock on doors, even if we don't have scheduled meetings. Let's go to the next slide. So let's show up and making certain that we're prepared for the meetings. Uh, we talked about the talking points, and I think it is important for us to go in understanding the talking points, but it's also important for us to go in understanding who we're meeting with. And so I always say, channel your inner Denzel, Tom Hanks, or Viola Davis. The reason why I use those three as examples because they're noted for prepping and preparing for the roles. And for those of us who've never been in a meeting, it's important for you to know that congressperson, understand how they have voted on issues, do some research on how they've talked about our issues. Um, they have a public record on it. And then as you are doing that research, think through some talking points to find common ground. And so it's not enough to just go in the meeting being prepared with what you want to say, but it's being prepared and understanding where they sit on the issues and how to talk to them about the issues in a way that they see it. And so we want to find common ground from that perspective. And then as you prepare, be genuine and be natural. Don't try to be in the meeting something that you're not. But you certainly want to be prepared. And so connecting with that person, understanding how they think about the issues, how they talk about the issues, and having thought about how you're going to present prior to. Next slide. Um, so as we go into the meetings, we need to everyone identify their specific roles, right? So you want to have a team leader, that's the person who's setting up the conversation. You want the constituent who is the storyteller, and they're telling very local stories. And let me just say that's the constituents are the most important people in the meeting. And so team leaders and note takers, make certain you create space, leave space for the constituents to tell their stories. Um, and for those who are constituents in the meetings, make certain that you are leaving space for your fellow constituents to tell, because you only have about 15 to 20, maybe 30 minutes at best, in each of the meetings. Next slide. Uh, when you walk into the office, and oh man, we're close to time here. When you walk into the office, note that everyone in the office is important. Um, and so you want to treat everyone as such, making certain that we're saying our thank yous for taking the meeting. We want to make certain everybody has an opportunity to introduce themselves, lay out the agenda. Here's what we're here to talk about. Um, and again, there is no more important person in the meeting than the constituent themselves. Um, make your case, make the ask, make certain that we're saying thank you, but also know, we often say this, is that a meeting didn't happen unless you take a photo, right? And so we want to take a photo with either the member and or staff, um, and make certain that we're utilizing our social media, because that has, in this day and age, that influences the process. And so let's make certain we're using all of our social media to influence the process. So again, I can't stress this enough. The constituent is the most important. That's who they care about. Uh, Also, stories, relevant stories to our talking points are important. So as you're thinking about your story, making certain that the story is connected to the ask. That's very important. Finding common ground. Legislators are looking for wins, and they have a way of thinking about things. And so position it in the way that demonstrate to them that this is a winning issue for them, right? And so talk about the issue, whether you believe it or not. Talk about it and state that this is a bipartisan issue. Name it, declare it. Um, be respectful. Come to the table, no matter what you've read in the paper. Come to the table, assuming good intentions on the other side. Be pointed and concise. As I stated before, allow others, leave time for them to share. Um, I know that we can be vociferous, we can be passionate, but there are a number of people who have um, stories as well. And so leave time for them. But don't be discouraged if you're meeting with the staffer. In fact, oftentimes I've been in meetings with members of Congress. They've committed to the issue, and they've committed that, yes, they support us. And then the staffer gets it and talks them out of it. So know that the staffer has a lot of influence on the decision making process, and they make the recommendations to their members. And so don't be discouraged if it's a staffer. They have a great deal of influence in these offices. Whew, I'm tired. I'll stand down and if there's any questions. And one of the things, I didn't hope jump into, the talking points because I wanted for folks to have the opportunity to get familiar with it. That's a part of the preparation. Um, I just wanted to touch on it, but stress the importance of staying on message, and everybody saying the same message, because at the end of the day, we want the legislators to utilize our talking points um, when they're talking about the issue. And we know that, was it Bill, was it 1189 is about the moratorium, right? So that's ultimately where we want our legislators to be, is a moratorium.
We'll take Hope. And Hope, well, you can actually, if you are able to come off camera, you can. I know you're here to also answer some logistic questions too. And then Belinda.
I don't think it's letting me come off, onto camera for some reason. I've tried several times to get on video, so I'm sorry about that. But I just wanted to thank you very much because we knew that the really important thing that had to happen tonight was for folks to be aware of the dynamics of a conversation with a legislator and really optimizing that. And we know that we'll have more time to talk with folks between now and lobby day about the specific points uh, on the lobby sheet that we have and send you a summary of the various bills so that you'll feel informed as you go in there. And so we treasure what you have done for us tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for your attention.
And I'd like to say thank you also. And I always tell people when you speak, speak from your heart.
Hmm.
Speak from your heart. And it means a lot, because this is what's affecting us. And, we have to have that passion. So speak from your heart. That's what I do.
No, and I appreciate that because, I can tell you, there was a federal bill where it's called the Equal Act, where we were looking to end the disparity between crack cocaine and powder cocaine. In fact, speaking of North Carolina, the leaders were out of Charlotte, North Carolina. They had just returned home from prison, um, and the constituents and myself, we took a meeting with, I think it was Senator Burr, who all of our partners said that he would not co-sponsor the Equal Act. Um, and they took the meeting from their work van. They had just returned home. They had just started a courier service from their work van. And they shared their story from the heart. I mean, I'm 6'4", 200 at the time, 270. Um, and, I was choked up in the meeting. And at the conclusion, the senator's staffer said, I was considering asking my boss to co-sponsor, but after hearing their stories, I think it's important for me to go back and recommend co-sponsorship. And the senator ended up co-sponsoring ending the disparity between crack cocaine and powder cocaine sentences. So your stories are very powerful and can be very impactful if you speak when you speak from the heart. I'm going to declare it up front. It's what you're going to do. When you speak from the heart, those stories have great impact. I know, Belinda, your hand was up. I didn't know if you had a question.
No, that was me that said speak from the heart. I put
Oh, I'm
it down.
sorry.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. I
Will you
didn't
all
see.
be will you all be there on Thursday?
Yeah, you can't get rid of us
Wednesday.
that easily. We
Yes.
we in, we're in the house.
I know Democracy NC is supposed to be there too. They're supposed to be bringing a lot of people.
Yes. We will
You
be
know,
there.
we'll be there to support on the ground in meetings, whatever you all need from us. We'll be present.
Yeah, and
Okay.
especially if you have a meeting and you're feeling like, oh, maybe this didn't go the way you wanted it to, or something, and you have some questions from what we talked about, what Kendia talked about in training today. We're here to even navigate that. Like we can help you with your next meeting. So please rely on us to provide you that support too on the ground.
Okay.
Well,
And one of the things I would say, Hope, I don't know how many of these you've conducted in the past, but I can tell you the embrace what may feel like chaos.
Mhm.
Um, we I can, the mornings just before meetings, I'm gathering the team, right? The people who are going to the meetings, and we're assigning roles. And these are going to be your talking points, right? And so you see all the bullet pointed talking points. So I want you to enumerate, the water, the impact on water. I want you to talk about and add color to environmental impact. And so each person getting those roles and owning that part of the discussion. A lot of that stuff happens, uh, in the morning of a meeting, and in some cases on your way. So all the way up to the meeting, we're tweaking, um, you know, and 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 so don't get intimidated by as a group. Let's not get intimidated by what may feel chaotic. Know that it's inherent in the process, and we're shaping it throughout.
Well, I am so grateful that you will be with us. And I wanted, just in terms of a slight reduction in chaos, for folks arriving who need printouts of the lobby sheet or background information or anything like that, we will have that available over in the Daily Planet, where you can also get snacks and food. And I am wondering if it would be most useful to have dream.org folks over in the legislative building, actually really accessible to people sort of between visits very, very easily, if you would agree. Because it sounds like that kind of sort of advice and counseling would be very, very helpful.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. We're more than happy to do that. We'll
Thank
be
you.
right by y'all side.
Thank you so much. The Daily Planet, I'm sorry. In at least one of the messages that I sent out, we had a link to it. It is across Jones Street and down about a block and a half. We used to meet in the museums right across Jones Street from the legislative building, but there's a lot of construction happening there now. So we had to move it a little further afield, but it has the advantage of having food right there. So.
So are you saying you want us to be stationed at the Daily Planet for in between meetings or
No,
at the
I'm
Capitol?
saying we'll have a couple of people with materials over at the Daily Planet to greet
Gotcha.
people.
Okay.
And maybe one over at the legislative building too, but it sounds like the kind of support that you're offering would be most useful really on site in the legislative building so people can find you
Hmm.
there and check in between visits.
Okay. Yep. You tell us where we need to be situated in the building, and we'll set up shop there.
And what we'll do is we'll let everyone know where you're going to be, where's a good site where they can easily find you. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Will do. Will do. All right. I know we're at time. So if any questions come up that you can think of post our meeting, we are in constant communication with Hope and Steph. So please run it past. I'm on the major thread for Lobby Day. So, and so is Candia. So please feel free. If anything comes up maybe tomorrow, like, I meant to ask this, feel free to give us an ask before Lobby Day. We do appreciate each of you taking time this evening, and we can't wait to be with you next week. I'm super excited.
So
Thank you.
one last thing, I've had a couple people ask for my contact information, and the best way is to reach me by email, and that's just HOPE at CWF as in Frank, NC as in North Carolina, .org. That just stands for Clean Water for North Carolina. Hope at CWFNC.org. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are deeply grateful.
Yeah, and the Lord said
Thank
the
you.
same. We'll see you on
Thank
Wednesday.
you.
All righty.
Josie asked, is there any advice on what to wear?
Comfortable
Just,
shoes.
yes,
Comfortable shoes,
very
definitely.
Comfortable shoes.
very comfortable shoes. If it's going to be a warm day, do not try and wear a three-piece suit,
Mm.
just be comfortable. As long as you are neatly dressed, that is
Yeah,
fine.
casual wear.
Yes, it does not have to be even business casual, just
Right.
be
Just
comfortable.
jeans and a nice shirt, whatever.
But and let me just say, there are a number of folks who came to lobby day um, in heels and looking sharp. I mean, really sharp. And at the end of the day, by noon, they they
They wear
they
flats.
they were done for.
Yeah.
So I can't stress enough on those hard marble floors. You wear some comfortable shoes.
And even the
And
legislators last week, I mean, they were dressed comfortable. They didn't, they just had on shirts and maybe a tie or whatever, but they wasn't like, dressed
Right.
down. Some of them did and some of them didn't. It was really fulfilling last week. I got a good vibe from it. I'm just hoping
Yeah.
it'll continue.
it doesn't even need to be business casual, just
Exactly.
just dress neatly and comfortably.
You
Mhm.
know,
That's
I've seen what's been effective too. Some folks will have on even I've seen T-shirts with like
Mm.
a jacket over it, but the T-shirt was obviously naturally germane to the issue or the organization, right? So if you
Yeah.
have your organization's T-shirt on and dress that up nice too, that
Mhm.
has been impactful.
Well, this has been good. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, our
And
pleasure.
as I said, if the Lord said the same, I'll see you on Wednesday.
Yes,
yes, we
indeed.
will. Thank
you.
you ever
Thank you,
so much.
everybody.
Bye.
Good night, all.
Good
Good
night.
night.